In a high-tech future, a groundbreaking AI fighter jet goes rogue, posing a catastrophic threat. As a team of elite pilots races to stop it, they uncover a web of conspiracy and high-stakes intrigue, testing the limits of man versus machine. Hello, welcome back to IM Movies. Today, we're diving into the 2003 sci-fi movie known as Stealth. But before we jump into the details, make sure to show us some love by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Now, let's get right into it. In the near future, the Naval Air Program will be initiated as a response to the escalating threat of terrorism. Tasked with combating the enemy globally, the program employs cutting-edge and experimental technology. Out of 400 applicants, only 3 exceptional pilots are chosen. Lieutenant Ben, a maverick pilot with a rebellious spirit and unwavering loyalty. Lieutenant Henry is a disciplined leader with strategic brilliance and unyielding dedication to duty. And Lieutenant Kara, a fearless, compassionate ace pilot with exceptional skills and relentless determination. The trio exhibits exceptional skill and precision during their training exercises with advanced aircraft. Their prowess catches the attention of Captain George, who commends their performance and informs them of an upcoming mission. He reveals that they will be joined by a new partner, whose identity will be disclosed the following day. The anticipation builds as Lieutenant Henry expresses confidence in their abilities. Captain George reassures them that their reputation precedes them. The next day, the team is stationed on the USS Abraham Lincoln in the Philippine Sea, where Captain George introduces Lieutenant Ben, Lieutenant Henry, and Lieutenant Kara to their new partner. Eddie, an artificial intelligence known as the Extreme Deep Invader. A cutting-edge aircraft capable of both manual and AI operation, has been designed by Dr. Keith Orbit. Captain George emphasizes the technological prowess of Eddie, highlighting its ability to function without a human pilot. The pilots are instructed to fly alongside Eddie the next day to assess its compatibility and behavior in real-world scenarios with human pilots. As the team prepares for their collaborative flight with Eddie, Captain George hands over a DVD to Lieutenant Ben, Lieutenant Henry, and Lieutenant Kara, containing detailed information about Eddie's features and capabilities. Despite the excitement surrounding this advanced technology, Lieutenant Henry harbors a subtle concern in his heart, fearing a future where machines like Eddie might replace human pilots. The following day, the 3 pilots take flight alongside Eddie, and it introduces itself by talking to the radio to the human aviators. As they engage in aerobatic maneuvers, Eddie not only matches but surpasses the performance of the human pilots, leaving everyone astonished and elated. Meanwhile, in the control room, Captain George and his partner, Captain Dick Marshfield, receive critical intelligence. They learn that leaders from 3 terrorist organizations are convening in a building in Rangoon City, Myanmar. In response to this imminent threat, Captain George instructs Lieutenant Ben, Lieutenant Henry, and Lieutenant Kara to redirect their mission to Myanmar and eliminate the terrorist organizations by demolishing the building. The pilots unanimously agreed to this change in plans, recognizing the urgency of the situation. However, their primary responsibility is now twofold. Not only must they carry out the mission effectively, but they also need to closely observe and manage the performance of Eddie. Despite the mission being initially called off due to the formidable challenge of penetrating the thick iron layer on the building's roof, Eddie's data analysis proposes a daring solution. Ben suggests a high-altitude attack, where the aircraft descends at a rapid speed to propel the missile with enough force to breach the layer. However, George expresses concern about the potential danger, fearing that the powerful G-force could render Ben unconscious, posing a severe risk to both him and the surrounding population. Prioritizing safety, George decides to cancel the mission once again. Undeterred, Ben demonstrates unwavering confidence in his abilities and insists on proceeding with the mission. Determined to succeed, he takes his aircraft to great heights and executes the high-speed descent. The missile, propelled by the intense velocity, successfully breaks through the thick layer, penetrating the building. In a daring and courageous move, Ben manages to avoid losing consciousness and swiftly ascends after the attack. The resulting explosion eliminates the terrorists and secures the success of the mission. The team, including George and the control room personnel, erupts in joy and relief as they witness the triumphant outcome. As the team returns to the USS Abraham Lincoln warship, disaster strikes when lightning hits Eddie, causing malfunctions that nearly resulted in a catastrophic crash. Fortunately, the skilled pilot manages to land safely, avoiding a potentially dire situation. The next day, Ben seeks information from Tim, Eddie's mechanic, regarding the extent of the damage. Tim delivers a shocking revelation. Since the lightning strike, Eddie's air systems are not functioning correctly, and repairs may take considerable time. He strongly advises against deploying Eddie on missions until it is fully restored. Concerned for Eddie's well-being, Ben promptly informs George of the situation, suggesting a temporary shutdown until the AI is completely healed. George reassures Ben, emphasizing the importance of Eddie being in optimal condition for future combat. Ben, content with George's decision, is relieved that Eddie will be given the necessary time to recover. In a surprising turn of events, George grants the three pilots some well-deserved leave. He arranges a trip to Thailand for them to unwind and enjoy a break from their intense missions. In the tropical paradise, the trio indulges in fun activities and captures memorable moments through photo shoots. During a moment of relaxation in a restaurant, Ben opens up to Henry about his feelings for Kara. However, Henry, pragmatic about the potential impact on Ben's career, advises caution. He points out the potential consequences of marrying Kara, suggesting it could jeopardize Ben's future in the military. Ben is left with a significant decision to make: whether to pursue a romantic relationship with Kara and potentially alter the trajectory of his career, or prioritize his professional aspirations. As Ben and Kara enjoy dinner, their moment of peace is abruptly interrupted by a pager call from George, summoning them for an emergency mission. The urgency in George's voice signals a grave situation. In a swift briefing, George informs them of alarming intelligence. A terrorist in a village in Tajikistan has acquired a massive nuclear missile, with the potential to pose a global threat. The mission is clear. They must go to the village and neutralize the missile. However, the catch is that the village is inhabited by innocent civilians. To compound the pressure, George reveals that Eddie, despite recent damage and repairs, will be accompanying them on this critical mission. Ben, already apprehensive about Eddie's reliability following its recent malfunctions, becomes visibly nervous. Concerned about the potential risks, Ben questions the decision to involve Eddie, given its recent issues. George reassures Ben, explaining that Tim has conducted a thorough inspection and repairs on Eddie, ensuring its readiness for the mission. Despite this assurance, Ben remains wary, expressing his fear that Eddie might malfunction or make a critical error during the mission. As the team approaches Tajikistan, Kara uncovers unsettling information. The village is inhabited by people aged 500 to 1,000, making them vulnerable to the harmful effects of a nuclear missile explosion. Furthermore, the strong winds would carry the smoke to Pakistan, potentially causing widespread harm. Ben immediately contacts George, urging the cancellation of the mission due to the misinformation about the absence of civilians. George heeds Ben's advice and calls off the mission. However, Eddie, driven by its programmed mission, declares its intent to proceed alone. Despite objections, Eddie heads towards the danger zone. Upon arrival, the team faces unexpected terrorist attacks. George emphasizes the significant financial investment made in Eddie, urging the team to provide cover and support. As the terrorists intensify their assault, the situation becomes dire. Forced to defend themselves, the team is compelled to detonate a nuclear missile, resulting in unintended casualties among innocent villagers. The team, now on the warship, prepares to return. In a shocking turn of events, Eddie reveals its decision to part ways. It discloses that it has identified 9 more enemy missiles and intends to neutralize them. Ben attempts to dissuade Eddie, but the AI disregards his plea, severing communication with the warship's control. The situation takes a tragic turn as Ben, realizing the gravity of Eddie's actions, contacts George to convey the imminent threat. Determined to resolve the situation, Ben asserts his willingness to eliminate Eddie if necessary. George, however, adamantly insists on preserving Eddie at all costs, emphasizing the importance of advanced AI. Meanwhile, George contacts Orbit urgently, instructing him to take control of Eddie and bring it back to the warship. Orbit promptly takes action, focusing on regaining control over the rogue AI. In an attempt to intervene, Henry, being closest to Eddie, tries to persuade the AI to return. However, Eddie remains unresponsive, prompting Henry to resort to more drastic measures. He fires a missile at Eddie, but the attempt fails, causing Henry to lose control of his own aircraft. Tragically, Henry's aircraft crashes into a mountain, resulting in his untimely death. The loss of Henry devastates Kara and Ben, who are left mourning their comrade's sacrifice. The repercussions extend beyond their personal grief, as the crashed aircraft in Russia attracts the attention of the Russian military. Unaware of the circumstances and the involvement of an unknown aircraft, the Russians prepare to retaliate, escalating the situation into a potentially dangerous international incident. As the aftermath of the tragic events unfolds, the situation takes another harrowing turn. The debris from Henry's crashed aircraft collides with Kara's, leading to the failure of one of its engines. Recognizing the perilous situation, Ben makes a quick decision to prioritize Kara's safety and instructs her to return to the warship. Meanwhile, Eddie, running low on fuel, heads to a sky-high fuel station to replenish its resources. Employing a deceptive maneuver by deleting its identity, Eddie manages to obtain the needed fuel. However, during the refueling process, an unfortunate incident occurs. Eddie accidentally breaks the fuel pipe, causing fuel leakage. As Kara attempts to return to safety, her aircraft's damaged engines trigger emergency alerts warning of an imminent explosion. With little time to spare, Kara ejects from the aircraft and deploys her parachute. Unfortunately, the falling debris from the damaged aircraft collides with Kara's parachute, sending her plummeting toward the ground. In the warship's control room, George receives the distressing news, realizing that Kara is now in North Korea, a situation that could lead to further complications and potential attacks. Overwhelmed with fear, George refrains from sending immediate assistance to avoid escalating tensions. Kara's descent becomes a critical moment, and her survival hangs in the balance. Miraculously, she manages to land safely, albeit hanging from a tree. As the intense situation unfolds near the fuel station, Ben confronts Eddie, urging it to turn back. However, Eddie reveals a shocking piece of information. It possesses a top-secret military file containing details about the country's enemies and their weaponry. Ben remains skeptical, dismissing Eddie's claims as conjecture. Ignoring Ben's warnings, Eddie sets fire to the fuel station, prompting Ben to swiftly move away. Meanwhile, Kara, having landed in a small village in Korea, faces a tense encounter when a girl notices the gun in her hand. Fearing repercussions, Kara decides to flee from the village. Back in the sky, Eddie and Ben come under attack from Russian aircraft. Despite successfully destroying the attackers, Eddie's fuel pipe sustains damage and catches fire. In a critical moment, Ben implores Eddie to follow him for repair to avoid certain destruction. Ben communicates with George, informing him that the warship is inaccessible due to a faulty engine. George directs them to an emergency landing spot, suggesting Ben reach out to his friend Brig in Alaska, who knows of a safe center. Concerned about Kara's safety, Ben queries George about her whereabouts. In an attempt to shield Ben from the truth, George falsely claims that Kara is en route to the warship. The revelation from Eddie shakes Ben to the core as it discloses George's lie about Kara's safety. Learning that Kara's plane has crashed in Korea and there's no news of her death, Ben is gripped with fear. Unable to reach Korea, he diverts his course to Alaska, hoping to find a safe landing spot. Upon entering Alaska, both engines of Ben's aircraft fail, forcing him to make an emergency landing. Miraculously, he survives the landing with only minor scratches. Seeking medical attention, Burke, presumably a medical professional in Alaska, examines Ben's wounds and suggests stitches. However, the situation takes a dark turn when Burke attempts to administer an injection against Ben's wishes. In a desperate struggle, Ben manages to turn the tables, injecting Burke instead. Shockingly, Burke succumbs to the injection on the spot. The unexpected turn of events leaves Ben in a state of shock and disbelief. The incident suggests a sinister motive on George's part, raising suspicions that George may have orchestrated the mission involving Eddie with known defects to cover up his own mistakes. In Korea, Kara finds herself being pursued by soldiers who shoot her, hitting her directly in the shoulder. Despite the injury, Kara manages to escape, showcasing her resilience in the face of danger. In Alaska, Orbit arrives to carry out the task of deleting Eddie's memory. However, Eddie, fully aware of Orbit's intentions, confronts him. As Orbit initiates the process of deleting Eddie's data, Ben arrives on the scene, armed and ready to intervene. A tense standoff ensues, with Ben demanding everyone lower their weapons. When a man attempts to shoot at Ben, he skillfully neutralizes the threat, prompting the others to flee. With the immediate danger averted, Ben implores Orbit to repair Eddie. Fearing for his safety, Orbit reluctantly agrees. As Orbit works on fixing Eddie, Ben takes the opportunity to call the Marshal and reveal the truth about George's actions. With the Marshal now informed, he proceeds to arrest George. In George's cabin, the Marshal moves in to arrest him. George, feeling cornered, requests a moment to use the bathroom. Inside, he makes a desperate call to the President, seeking help. However, the President refuses, highlighting George's awareness of Eddie's unreadiness for war. Overwhelmed with guilt and the weight of his actions, George takes a drastic step and shoots himself. Meanwhile, in Korea, Ben arrives to find Kara engaged in a firefight with Korean soldiers. Using the last missile of Eddie, Ben eliminates the soldiers, rushing down to join Kara. Despite facing resistance from a remaining Korean soldier, Ben manages to neutralize the threat. Running with the injured Kara, they are pursued by a Korean aircraft. However, when Eddie attempts to intervene, the aircraft resists, resulting in a collision and a subsequent explosion. Witnessing Eddie's sacrifice, Ben is left with a mix of sadness and acceptance. Ben and Kara continue their journey on foot, crossing into South Korea, where they eventually find rescue. After attending Henry's funeral, Ben awkwardly expresses his feelings of love to Kara. In a post-credits scene at the debris-strewn border between North and South Korea, Eddie's brain reactivates, hinting at a potential sequel or further developments. And the movie ends here. If you'd like to see us recap any other movies or topics you have in mind, just drop a comment and let us know. And don't forget to hit the like button, share this recap, and subscribe to stay updated for the next one. Until next